right, guys, welcome to the Buff Show. We got a good episode coming your way. We got Big P, Parker.
I love that stuck.
I know.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Ben came up with it, and we don't have one for Ben.
The best.
Yeah, Beardy Ben is what I want to call you.
Because Ben's already the best one out there, I'm just saying.
Beardy Best Ben.
The best bearded Ben.
The best bearded Ben.
there we go.
You guys should come up with like a
nickname for me.
An Instagram handle for Ben. Because what are you right now?
Like Ben
Larson?
Jammin'.
Yeah.
Ben Jammin'.
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So today we're going over what questions you should ask when interviewing for a buyer's agent. So this is assuming you're out looking at houses. They say the average person knows 7 agents at minimum. I'll bet some people might know more, other people less. So when it comes to buying a house, you probably have multiple options to choose from. And if you don't have multiple options, just get online, Google real estate agent in whatever area you're searching, and there's going to be a bunch come up. But how do you go about picking the right one? So we're going to kind of go over the questions that you should think about answering or asking them.
These are questions that you'd almost want to ask them in like an interview type setting.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't really think about it, but you're hiring somebody to like with one of the biggest financial commitments of your life. And if you don't take that seriously and you hire the wrong person, then you're not going to have a great experience.
And a lot of people don't understand us as an agent. We work for you. Like we are essentially an employee for you to get a desired goal. Mm-hmm. So like any other employee, you want to make sure you want to interview us. You want to go through that vetting process.
Yeah. And we want to interview you.
Right. Because maybe we don't want to work for you. No.
So we're going to jump into this. Hopefully, if you are considering an agent, we're in the runnings. And if not, no worries. This will be a good guide for you no matter what. So.
And this list is in no particular order of importance. Everybody's importance factors are personal to them. So take that with a grain of salt as well.
Yeah.
So let's start with experience and credentials. Some of the stuff you want to ask a potential buyer's agent is, how long have you been working as a buyer's agent? Have you worked with buyers in my area with similar needs as me? And can you give experiences or testimonials of that? What personal real estate deals have you done? Have they bought their own house? Are they into investment properties? Those are the kind of questions. Like, if you haven't bought a home, it'd be hard for me to trust you to buy a home. And then maybe you're a real estate investor or something like that. You'd want to ask, are they playing the game of real estate?
Well, and I think in here too, like another question we could add, have you flipped a property? Like, have you flipped a house?
Sure.
Have you done renovations? Like, do you know what to look out for? Just because there's so many, like I think people overlook the importance of having a good buyer's agent. Like they're helping you find a property that's hopefully not going to be a headache.
Right.
And like one thing that when I'm working with buyers, I'm like, oh, did you realize the roof is 20 years old and hasn't been replaced? Like you might be so in love with a house, you might be overlooking, well, that's a $20,000 bill that's coming within the next year or something like that. Or, hey, the house is great, but there's this huge structural crack in the brick and it's gapping, a half an inch. That's house is settling or whatever it is. I think just like, what experience do they have in being a buyer's agent,
Correct. Or in real estate in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that plays a huge, like, especially with investing too. Like, that's one thing that I think, like, Alex here in the office does well with. Like, he's done a lot of his own deals. Mm-hmm. And so, like, a lot of his clients and that reach out to him, like, when they're even looking at something for themselves,
Yeah, because
he's just a book of knowledge.
Right, because he has the background and is more of a resource, for sure.
And each one of these things is more of a nuance to what you want as a buyer. Are you an investor? Are you looking for a personal home?
Yeah.
And how does that agent line up with you?
Yeah. Is it a luxury home or in those lines?
Exactly.
So, okay, number 2, you want to cover that?
Yeah. So number 2, market knowledge. So here's just a couple questions on that. What is your experience with the local real estate market? Can you provide insights into current market conditions, trends, and pricing in my desired neighborhoods? If you don't know the answer, do you have the resources to get it? And how resourceful are you?
Been through in that last one. If you don't know the answer, because like there are some areas that I've sold homes in like a different city in Utah. And like I don't know this area very well, but like I can figure out whatever questions there are regarding that neighborhood.
And as agents, everybody has like their hometown or their honey hole that they are just extremely intimate with, that puts them ahead from many of the other competitors. But a biggest thing I learned, from my past in construction and stuff like that, it's not so much what you have memorized and can spit out on at a drop of a hat. Do you have the resources to get the job done? Do I know who to ask? Do I know where to look? What government agency to pull information from? Because they might, a certain agent might not fit that area that you're looking, or you might be looking from, Tremont to St. George, But if that agent fits you well in all the other aspects, they might not know St. George as well as they know Tremont. But if they're well-rounded in their resource gathering and their networking, then it doesn't matter.
So can I tell you a story on this? And this isn't
Fine.
This isn't a great
Fine.
story highlighting this was an area that I learned this the hard way. I wasn't super resourceful. So I was selling a property out in like West Ogden area, and there was a huge farm next door to the property. This house was on like 1.25 acres, new build, beautiful home, like 4,000 plus square feet. Clients were moving from Cache Valley down to Ogden for work, and they wanted just to be somewhere more rural. And they bought the house. A few days after they bought it, I get a call, and it was the wife, and she's like, "You're never going to believe it, but they just announced that field across the street from us, it was like 50 acres, is the new high school."
No.
And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I didn't know. So
Right.
like I could have been more like, I guess, diligent, asking around, trying and it's always a good idea to go knock on the neighbors' doors and be like, hey, anything anything I should know, because
they'll give you the drama is what it is. It's tell me what makes you mad, and they'll be like, oh, this and that, and that, people like to vent.
But that's one thing that I was like, I didn't know, and I think it was still hard. Like the school district owned it, but it wasn't like common knowledge right then and there that's what was happening. But yeah, that was a big moment where I was like, oh, should have done a little bit more investigation there, I guess you could say, talking to neighbors and stuff like that. The other thing I like that we do, like we monthly review the numbers that come out from the Utah Association of Realtors, just saying what the market's doing. We just shot one today going over the stats. What's the market doing? Is it up, down? Is it buyer's market, seller's market? So we have good insights as to what's going on there. And then we attend agent tours, like broker open houses, seeing what listings are coming and going, and talking to other agents and brokers, seeing what they're experiencing in the market. Because all of that data, we take it into, oh, you found a house that you like and you want to offer on it. Let's dive into this. Like where do we need to be price wise? And that's another thing that we'll jump into later on down the line, is how we kind of go about that. But market knowledge is huge. And then just being resourceful, being scrappy, like getting the info, asking the questions that most people wouldn't think about asking.
I actually got a good example because, I'm a better agent than Peyton. I had a client wanted this house. He was ready to basically buy it cash tomorrow. And it was actually a simple find, but there was a gas pipeline. It was an 1.5 acre property in Farmington, Oak Ridge Golf Course, right in the backyard. And he's like, I'm going to buy this house. I've already checked the footages and stuff at the county. The guy was smart himself. He's like, I can build my son a house next door to us. It's going to be great. And it took maybe 30 seconds of just looking up at easements. Pipeline, right coming off Oak Ridge, right through that. And that's why that lot was so big, because it's a pipeline easement. So
you can do anything with it.
You can't do anything. You can't touch it. You can
put a garden.
Yep. You can enjoy. I can't remember the wording on it. Basically, you can't even drive a vehicle over it. So you can't have a driveway. You can't everything. So, but you could have grass and
a garden,
soft recreation, basically.
Really crazy.
So no trees.
Those are things you gotta know. So, okay, we're going to jump to the next one. Communication and availability. This is huge. So how do you prefer to communicate with clients? Phone, email, text, and this is one that we want to know too. Like, how do you prefer us talk to you? What's your availability like? Will you be able to accommodate my schedule for the property viewings and meetings? Do you have a team or assistant who can provide support when you're unavailable? And what tools and systems do you have to help with communication? Probably one of the biggest things I get is the frustrations of people with buyer's agents is they'll want to see a house and their agent is out of town and they can't get a hold of them. And that agent doesn't have an assistant or a team to get them into the property that covers for them while they're gone. Or just like picking up the phone and answering calls. A lot of agents are just notorious of not picking up their phone, not taking that text, not answering an email. And it's hard. Sometimes like we get bogged down with work and it's hard to stay on top of that. But as an agent, like it's your duty. Like you got to keep those communication avenues like open and flowing.
You got to be really leery of people that send you an automated text like I'm on the other line, call you in a second.
Yeah.
Peyton does that to me still today on purpose.
I'm on the call.
At least customize it to me so I feel special.
Hey Ben,
No.
I'll just get a create one of those auto ones. It's like, hey Ben, I'll call you.
I care about you. I'll call you back.
I love you.
But even that means he saw my call, different things like that. Just the basic touches. You really want an agent that everybody goes out of town, everybody has a life, and this goes back to your resources too. If I'm out of town, Peyton will do a showing for me, or Big P, and vice versa. If they don't have that team and those resources, and they can't communicate that to you as well, so that it just all ties back into each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
One thing that I always say in the office is if you have a client and they're asking a question about like, hey, when's our due diligence? Or, hey, what's next? Like they haven't done their job, right? As an agent, we always want to be like one step ahead. Like, hey, here's what to expect next. Or we need to get an inspection scheduled. Or the appraiser's going out on this day. Like just keeping that, like communication is, if you're a good communicator, you can avoid 95% of the problems that will ever come up.
And a need for more communication. The more efficient you are at communicating and being ahead of the game, saves unnecessary talking, calling, questions.
Yeah.
Because they have their answers ready to go when they needed them, before they needed them.
Yeah.
Right.
So Ben, it was like we have a CRM, and
Yes.
that's shoot, cut this out. What does a CRM stand for? Client Relationship Manager. And it
Don't cut that out.
don't cut it out. It's fine. But we have a CRM that basically like we can look up any client in our database and like it just keeps track of what they're looking for, communication, emails, like all the deals are in there. So it's like it keeps us organized because when we get multiple clients that we're working with, it gets hard to like, wait, was this deal or where's that file? Like it just
Kind of falls back into the tools that we utilize.
Yeah. So we have that. We have Sisu. We have other team members that are there helping us, a transaction coordinator, listing coordinator, just to help keep us on task, right?
Yeah.
Knowing what's next.
Negotiation skills. So can you provide examples of successful, remember, we're giving you a topic and then how you should ask these agents, right?
Yeah.
So negotiation skills is a topic. And I'm going to ask this agent, can you provide examples of a successful negotiation you've conducted on behalf of your buyers? Basically, just ask them, hey, have you gotten to any hairy negotiations? How do you approach negotiations to ensure the best outcome for your client? And can you keep a cool head?
Yeah.
Have you ever had anything or somebody blow up on you in this industry, Parker?
No, not yet. I'm sure it'll happen.
It's
but
good. It'll happen.
Yeah.
I'm so
and
excited.
I do a pretty good job of keeping my cool. I'm a pretty mellow, easygoing kind of guy. So
Right.
If I tell people all the time, if people were honest and nice, you wouldn't need agents.
Right.
Like the reason there's an agent is because there's jerks out there and people that lie and deceive and things just get hairy and people blow up. And it's like, yeah, I've been called an effer multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Like just recently because I wasn't plowing the neighbor's driveway, like just from the neighbor next door. Anyways.
Yeah, well, and you'll see that even in agents to other agents, as much as you don't like to see it, but this is why you interview these agents, because you'll see an agent and you'll have a great agent like one of us three, right? But you'll have an interaction where you'll have your agent call on something, and their agent responding back is ignorant and rude, and you'll watch how put off that makes you feel.
Right.
And you're like, could you imagine if I hired this agent and he called on my behalf and was like, hey, sell me this house, quit being, dumb, take this offer.
Yeah.
It would just put a bad taste. Like, so you got to have a cool, mellow head. You got to take a kick in the shin and tell them thank you. It makes you want to punch the pillow as hard as you can, but that is a huge thing, is a cool head.
And like, what's your reputation in the community? Because
Yeah.
if you're hiring an agent that is making enemies left and right, like our reputation's
Massive.
king, right?
Yep.
If there's an agent that I pissed off 3 deals ago, and then I end up working with them on, or let's say I'm representing you as a buyer's agent, and I piss them off on the last deal. Like, do you think they're gonna entertain your offer any better? Like, they're gonna have that taste in the mouth, and even though it wasn't against you, like it's still gonna affect you, right?
Sure. Well, and it also does affect the deal too. If I'm an agent and I've worked with another agent and they were really shoddy and they were bad to respond and stuff, I'm going to let my client know, like, hey, look, this offer is this, but the last time I worked with this agent, these are the things that happened.
Right.
So it's not just that agents are gonna gatekeep. We don't do that. But if you have a bad reputation, it's part of our fiduciary duty to tell our sellers or our buyers about you.
Well, and from our perspective, there's some clients we just don't want to work with. Like, I've been asked by some clients, like, hey, will you do this? And I'm like, that's shady. Like, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Like, you can go ask somebody else to do that. But this is my reputation too. And like, I decide if I want to work with you as well.
Right.
So let's play a fair game here. Because people can get interesting.
The negotiation is where you make or break a lot of times when it comes down to the deal.
And a lot of times you just have to be respectful too, and keep a cool head and everything. There's a lot of stories I could tell in this. You want an agent that can get you a good deal on the property, but a good enough deal to where if you were to run into the sellers at the grocery store, they're not going to run over and punch you in the face, right?
Yep, right.
Like I've had some clients, I'm like, I will ask for that. I'm advising you don't do that, because like there's some buyers that just want to push the line so much, like they want to squeeze the lemon dry.
Well, and I'm going to stop you there. That is okay if you have a good agent that can squeeze that lemon with tact.
Right.
There's a way to go about squeezing someone's lemons without being ignorant about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to be careful. I agree.
You do have to be careful. And yeah, just how you present things and handle things. But I've been put in some weird spots where I'm like, I will ask that, but I don't advise it.
Right.
And I've had a few times where I was working with buyers and the buyers were like, push, push, push. And we pushed maybe too hard.
Yep.
To where even that last counter that the seller sent over, they're like, that's off the table. If you want it, you can pay full asking price. And I'm like, we pushed it a little bit too hard.
Everyone's done it on your Facebook marketplaces and your KSLs and stuff.
Yeah.
Here's the sell price. There's negotiating, and then there's don't waste my time. And now you've pissed me off, so I don't want your next offer.
If you have a good agent that's like, hey, what's the seller's situation? Like, how motivated are they? Like, you can get a feel by just talking on how hard you can push, right?
Yeah,
and then you can relay that onto your clients, and that's what I've always done. And then again, sometimes I'm like, hey, let's just do this verbally. Like, let's not put this into the contract.
Let's see how test the waters before we toss it over.
Yeah. So anyways, I feel like we beat a dead horse there, but negotiation skills, like, are they tactful? And what's some of their experience behind that? Big P, you want to cover number 5?
Yep. So referrals and references. Can you provide references from past clients who were satisfied with your services? And do you have testimonials or online reviews I can review?
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. Just like one thing I've been focusing on this year is just like my Instagram and social media. And so like a few weeks ago, I actually took like one of like my Google reviews that somebody left me and just like framed it, put it on my Instagram and just kind of put it out there, just because I can tell people how great I am,
right.
But Also, it's better to
You
get
don't
a
want
second opinion.
Yeah, you don't want to toot your own horn too
Right,
much.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So,
No, and those are hard. I mean, especially for myself. Do you know how hard it is? Like, we're good at our jobs, all three of us in different ways. We all have strengths, but I could go in and kill a deal and kill a contract and just be the best agent out there. But to have to walk up and knock or text or call and say, "Hey, will you leave me a review?" That is hard. So if an agent has a lot of those, and like you can read through them and see the legitimacy of them and which ones are fluff and which ones are like, that's a hard ask. And because you're asking someone to give you a review, what if they hated you?
Yeah.
You know, what if
is
you
risky.
don't know that you pissed them off? Yeah, you got the deal done, but they didn't like you.
Right.
You're asking for.
Well, I feel like we always have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, you don't.
you don't ask the ones, but like in my goal with every one of my deals is to ensure that my clients have like just the best time of their life during that contract with me, right? Getting into that property. Like it's a big deal. Like we're talking about where are you going to spend the next 5-10 years of your life with, and like in those four walls, that's where you're going to make all your memories, take babies home to, like laugh, cry, play. Like it's a huge deal. And so
You just sounded like a wall decoration.
well,
Laugh, cry, play.
you did.
that's that's what we're helping people find. And it's one thing that we've been really focusing on is getting those reviews and references so that people can be like, okay, if we hire Banner, Parker, Payton, this is what we can expect. And we've even got some video testimonials, which I feel like those are helpful too, because it's like a real life person saying, hey, here's my experience.
And the weight behind those in reality, to have someone take their time to come in and do a video. Nobody likes being on video.
No.
You know, we don't even like it. But for someone to come in and do that, that shows a lot of an agent.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yeah, it's hard, but we want to get those stories out there because I do feel like we deliver an exceptional experience, and like we want to over deliver that, right?
We're tooting our own horn now.
100%.
Yep. Toot.
Ben's like,
If there's more than one of us, then we can toot our own horn. So,
okay.
it's you.
The process. I'm glad I get to cover this one. So what does your process look like? How does the process start? How are you a resource after closing? What technology and tools do you use to assist buyers in their search for properties? Do you have access to off-market listings or pocket listings? Can you provide guidance on local community, schools, and amenities, etc.? So, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on the process, but basically, I'll give you kind of my process. Like, reach out to one of us. Hey, I want to buy a house. Great. We'll have an initial sit-down conversation. What are you looking for? Talk strategy. We'll educate you on what that process looks like. We have a buyer's guide that you can read through, and like it goes through step by step. But we're basically taking you through. I mean, when we were talking about this podcast, I'm like, a buyer's agent's like a river rafting guide. And you're trying to get from here to here and not drowned.
Yeah.
Not damage the boat, not end up in the wrong spot, not take the wrong river crossing. Like, it's just, there's so many pitfalls and things to overcome and watch out for that. And it's always changing. Even for us, like, it's hard to stay on top of market changes, interest rates, the contracts that are changing, like different developments and communities. Like, there's just this whole thing. Like, even if I were to go buy a property in a different state, I would hire an agent there.
Oh, I was going to say that. Even us as professionals, like I've been wanting to invest out of state.
Yeah.
And I've started calling agents because, yeah, I'm an agent. I'm the best there ever is. Toot toot. But I leave my, certain area, and you realize, yeah, I know how to do all of this. I can go do it. But an agent in their area, in their zone, is such a powerful tool.
Yeah, you'll end up buying a house with a high school going in across the
Yeah,
street.
exactly. I think on the process too, like everyone has a process. The biggest thing to look at for when you are interviewing to choose, do they have one?
Yeah.
At least, we ask, how does the process start? Because that's the main thing. From there, depending on your wants, it can go anywhere.
Right.
So I think that's a big question. How do we start the process? And an agent should know that right off the top of the head.
Yeah.
You know, I want to get to know you. What are your needs, wants, must-haves? Those are the biggest things before we just start jumping into, well, how much money do you have, this and stuff. Like, what is the need of the client? So,
Yeah. Our goal is to get you into the property, find your dream home, not just to collect a paycheck, right?
Right.
Yep,
The
I was just gonna
paycheck
say that.
is like a afterthought. Like if we do a good job, then we get the bonus, right?
I mean, that's the realtor answer. We do it for the paycheck, but I want to do it and feel good about it after.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because
yeah.
like it is our job at the end of the day.
Yes,
Like
it
this is
is.
like what we
Yep.
do to provide.
But at the end of the day, I would rather not have a paycheck than to put somebody in a situation that they're unhappy with.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to our reputations. Yes, we do it for the money, but more often than not, we've walked away from deals. We've not put offers in the homes that you could have probably convinced someone to do it, but it wasn't a good fit. They saw it. We all knew it. And you do the right thing. It's hard, but part of that process is knowing what they want.
And sometimes it's like, hey, you'd be dumb not to do this deal.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to pull your hair out and be like, please.
Yeah. I've told clients like, look, if you don't buy this one, I will.
Yeah. Yep. My
But
turn?
yeah, the process, yeah. I'm done.
Sorry. Fees and contracts. So how are your fees structured? Can you provide a copy of a buyer agency agreement or a contract for review? And are there any additional costs or expenses I should be aware of? This is a taboo-ish, scary area for all real estate, buyer and seller side. More often than not, Big P, who pays for a buyer's agent fee?
The sellers do.
Now, there's circumstances where they don't,
Right.
but few and far between. But I think one of the biggest things you want to be aware of is a buyer's agency agreement and how they're structured. A buyer's agent wants to get you under contract because when you go under and start working for someone, like you can show them 37 houses and then they could go, oh, hey, I'm going to use this person and just buy the house. But you also have got to be careful because some agents, and I'm not going to point fingers, but they'll try to put you under contract for an undisclosed amount of time in a wide, vast area that they might not be good for you in. So really look over their contracts. Ask them if there is issues. Say you get going with them and you just don't jive. Is there a way out of the contract? Different things like that I think is huge.
A few other things to keep in mind, like you sign a buyer's agency agreement, it's committing to that agent for a period of time and a location and a price. And typically you'll see the fees are negotiable, but you'll see 3%. And so what they're saying is if you buy a property and the sellers are only offering a 2% commission, that you would be agreeing to make up the difference. So you would owe 1% there. And then a lot of, like in the industry, it's common. Most agents, brokerages are saying, hey, let's meet and let's have you sign this buyer broker agreement, which I'm like back and forth on it. Right?
Right.
Because I've had buyers that I've invested a ton of time into and haven't got that signed. And then they did go buy with somebody else. And that's a crappy spot to be in.
Or a squirrely agent said, oh, hey, you haven't signed that yet? I'm going to just come do it with me. And they basically get to collect both sides. It can be dirty. So that's why we have this stuff in place. Too.
Yeah. But once how I've operated is, and again, all of us are going to be slightly different, but how I have operated in the past, we'll go out and look. I'm not a huge fan of pushing that buyer agent agreement until we're writing offers on properties. If I'm writing an offer on a property, we're going to have one.
Yeah.
But I've even thrown in there like, hey, if you're ever unhappy with the service that you're getting, if I'm not doing a good enough job, like I'm never going to hold somebody to the gun and be like, you have to pay me. Like I like it that it's based on me performing for them, right? The buyer wants, you want an agent that's out there sending you properties,
Sure.
doing a good job for you. But also it goes back and forth, right? There's a level of trust there. And And it's not my job to solely like, hey, this is a property, you got to buy it. Like, it's so easy to shop for homes online. Most of my clients already have the house picked out online before like I even step in.
Well, and a lot of the legalities on that too. You say, Peyton says, if we're writing contracts, we're going to have one. That's actually what establishes our fiduciary. We're actually required at that point to have one for you.
Yeah.
Because it also protects you as well, that we are operating in your interest and we're not going sideways as an agent. So read through them. They protect you as well as us, but it's what makes us liable to be your agent, your agency.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's important to we have to have them.
Yes,
we have to have them.
They're a legal contract.
It just depends on at what point do we get them, right? I don't ever want any of my clients to be like, oh man, I signed a buyer agent agreement with Peyton. He hasn't been doing anything for me, and I have to wait 6 more months till I can buy something. Like, that's not cool.
No,
So, but again, that buyer should be talking to the agent, being like, hey, I don't feel like you're doing a good enough job for me. Like, this is what I need from you. Like all frustration comes from unmet expectations and just that communication that is not being communicated. Like, tell me what you want. What do you need?
Yeah.
And like, we'll do it for you. Like, do you want to be texted every single day of like what listings came and went? Like, I'd be happy to do that. I could totally do that. But like, I need to know what level, like what's important to you, right?
And that's part of that communication. You need to tell them what kind of communication you want and what kind of communication you're going to give them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Personal approach, you got that?
Yep. All right. So personal approach. So what sets you apart from other buyer's agents, and how do you tailor your services to meet the unique needs and preferences of each client?
I mean, I this is good because like any one of these people watching this podcast episode would be like, oh, I'd relate better with Parker or Ben or Peyton or Austin or Alex or Michaela or like anybody in our office. Like you, it's important to find like somebody you relate to as well.
Well, and then that makes that communication easier, right? Like Big P with his professionalism, he might be intimidating to someone.
Yeah.
Where Peyton's kind of a slacker and stuff, and you could, you're not more afraid, or you feel more comfortable to be like, hey, Peyton, you're not doing what I want you to do, and know that like, okay, we're well enough established that he's going to take that, and it's not going to be offensive. It's going to be an instruction.
Yeah.
Yeah. The personal approach is in my opinion, that's such a huge thing. And I've had clients where I've given it to another agent because I'm like, look, I know they want something, but
I can't.
We don't jive.
Yeah.
We don't jive, and I don't feel like I can be good for you.
Right.
So we're kind of interviewing back when you talk to these agents, you'll get a vibe. You'll know. That sounds super hippie, but get a vibe.
Yeah. You'll get a vibe.
You'll get a vibe.
You'll be vibing.
but you will. You pretty well know if you're going to get along with someone in the first 5 seconds of talking to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's huge too. Like, even like what we talked about, like our initial goal is just to like make sure that the client's best interest is there, like getting them into their dream home. Like, if you know that you're not jiving with somebody, then it's like, I'm going to pass you off to somebody. Like, I don't want to feel bad about myself that I got you in the wrong property and didn't, felt bad the whole time.
yeah, because you were misfiring the whole.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you have to have that connection there for sure.
And I don't know if you guys have noticed here at Mountain Buff, we have a diversity of personalities and types and vibes.
Yeah, just get on our podcast and watch a bunch, and you could pick pretty quickly which agent you want to work with.
Yep.
And all of them would be great. It just depends on the who you work well. Yeah. All right. So this is a good overview. I think most people don't like. They're like, oh, you're an agent? Sure, I'll use you. Or my sister's an agent. Like, but it's like actually like take a second to really vet. Like, who do you want handling this transaction? Who's the best candidate?
It's
to get you from point A to point B.
It's your employee. You've got to. That's the biggest thing. We work for you.
Right.
I mean, you get a lot of agents that have a lot of attitude. Like, this is what you're going to do. No, like we work for you. as much as that might be horrible and might make our trade and industry harder, that's the name of the game. We're a service industry, and if we don't meet your needs, then don't hire us.
Right. Or
You
fire
know,
us.
or fire us. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. You're not stuck. You are in control. But the biggest thing is utilize it.
But
You
can
know what
I
mean?
can I say what, like, the frustrations from an agent towards buyers is they just don't communicate with us on what's going on.
Sure.
Like they'll go from 0 miles to 100 miles per hour. Like we'll be like checking in every so often, and then they're like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to buy anything or do anything till next year. And then they see this one house, wife falls in love with it, and then they have to have it. And it's like from cold to boiling hot water in like 1 second. And they're like, get me in there. And I'm like, geez, well,
Yeah, I just had one of those. It was, I mean, and that and price too.
yeah.
Like we were sitting in like the we don't want a penny over 600 range, and we've been 8 months deep into it, and all of a sudden it was, hey, we're looking at $800,000 houses now, and okay, we're looking at them, and I was actually trying to talk them into the cheaper one,
Right.
That I felt fit them better, and that communication of that 1 week we went from older to a brand new build and $200,000 more.
Right. And we're good. We're good with that journey. Just like loop us in. We're not in
Yeah.
your bedroom at night when you're talking about that. So maybe be like, hey, Ben, we were chatting last night and here's what we're thinking. What do you
Sure.
think? What ideas do you have? Any recommendations, loan programs? Like, because we're talking like that right there could be a
Yep.
difference between a conventional and like a jumbo loan, you
Yep.
know? And so those are things that they need to think through and incorporate you into that conversation versus like, because there's a lot of things you could have done in between there to get them on that page. And a lot of times as buyer's agents, we're just guiding people through this journey, and it is an investigation. Like, do we like this neighborhood? Do we like this style of home? Do we like this? But like keep us in like in your conversations and like updates and stuff like that. So we know like, oh, they hate 2-story homes.
Right.
Like we have an idea what's going on. So hopefully this was helpful. Anything else you guys want to add in there?
Not that I can think of. I don't have anything else.
We're just touching the surface on all of the stuff you should ask. So this is an overview. I mean, not every box is going to get checked with every agent. You got to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, you would never it'd be Superman if you found an agent that checked every one of these boxes. So, because it depends on what house you're looking at, where it's at. Like, there's different agents that are going to be skilled in every one of those. But I think it comes down to: do you trust them? Do you jive well with them?
Vibing with them.
Are you
vibing?
And do you feel like they have the work ethic and hustle to get you from point A to point B?
For sure.
So, okay. Well, if you guys have any other questions, we're going to have this list for you, and we'd love to hear from you.
Feedback. Talk to us.
Yep.
Communicate.
Thanks, guys.